All right, let me see if we are here. I think we are on, but I don't think my Instagram is on. So I am going to get that going because I think that we have an issue with Instagram again. And I tested it yesterday. But come on in, those of you who are coming, come on in. Thank you for coming. We are getting ready to get started, but I gotta get the Instagram going. Gotta get Instagram going. Can't do this without Instagram. I mean, I can, but that's not what I want to do. I don't want to do this without Instagram. Let's get this going right now on Instagram. Okay, I know I'm repeating myself. All righty. Okay. All right. So yeah, I just gotten a notification saying the Instagram upload failed. So I'm here now. Welcome. Come on in. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. And welcome to Dr. Tonya Live. Before we dive in, each day this week, I've been grounding us in a scripture verse that I really think is really important. And it's Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things that He's planned for us long ago." That's good news. So you are not an accident, okay? Your business, the business that you're building, the dream that you can't let go, that's the part that he has planned for you long ago. So I am so grateful that you are here. Thank you for joining me. This is actually day four of my 90-day challenge. Every single day, weekdays, I am showing up live to encourage women who are ready to start a business, women who've already started, but looking for additional support to get their business off the ground. Women who are looking to build and grow the business that they've already started. So, for those of you who are new here and those of you who are joining me, but those of you who are brand new, I'm Dr. Tanya, and this is Dr. Tanya Live. Real talk for women building their businesses. And I'm so grateful that you've joined me today. So, I am going to get into today's topic, which is here's our topic for the day. Whose voice is that? Silencing the critic within. So, that is what we're going to be talking about today. We are going to be silencing that inner critic that some of you may be too familiar with, some of you may not. But we should talk about what I mean by that inner critic. That means that's that inner voice that is always saying things that are problematic. It's the inner voice that kind of derails the plans that God has for you, that helps you to procrastinate, that gets you off track. That's that inner voice, that inner critic. And the inner voice really is just an extension of our fear. Yesterday, we spent some time talking about naming the fear, naming it out loud. And today, I want to kind of extend that conversation to discuss fear and how fear plays itself in the record that plays in our brain, if you will. So let's talk about fear a little bit. In that, fear does have a purpose, a useful purpose in our lives. That useful purpose is, if there's some kind of danger, if there's some way that we don't feel like we're going to be safe, even if it's perceived, our brain will go to work and fear will go to work on our behalf to address that and to fight on our behalf. Okay, so that is a good reason why we have fear. That is why, God has created that part of us so that part of our brain will respond accordingly and keep us safe. So, for example, in the middle of the night, you're asleep, you're really resting well, the smoke detector goes off. If the smoke detector goes off, it's the amygdala, it's the part of the brain that is triggered, but that's the part that where fear will wake you up so that you can get to safety if for some reason there is a fire in your home. So it's very useful for things like that. Um, but fear also can become an enemy to us when we succumb to what fear whispers in our ear. Okay, so I'm going to personify fear for the purposes of this live today because fear can be really powerful, it could be really overwhelming, and the voices in our head can actually take us off track, get us to a place where we are not able to do the things that God has called us to do. So I'm talking to people who have a business, who want to start a business, people who have started but haven't moved forward with it, or who are looking to build the business that they've started. That's who I really want to talk to. But all people are welcome to this conversation because this issue of fear can show up in other places, like in the workforce, like in our families, in our communities that we are connected to. And so, how do we deal with this inner voice, this inner critic, if you will, that is always whispering something that takes us off a track and and moves us away from doing the very thing that God has called us to do? So, that's what I really want to talk about. Um, because I feel like there are times that fear can, like fear can be our friend, like what I was describing earlier. Fear really can work to help us stay safe. But those aspects of fear that are not positive are the aspects of fear that say things like, you say, "Hey, I'd love to be able to start this new business one day." And you hear in your ear, this inner critic, and may not literally your ear, but inside you just hear this voice saying, "You're too old to start a new business. You're nearing retirement. You're too young to start a business. You don't have any experiences. Who's going to buy from you? Who's going to listen to you? Who's going to trust you? They don't know you." Like that is that inner voice, that inner critic that doesn't want you to move forward in doing the things that God has called you to do. So a lot of us who are entrepreneurs, especially if we are believers, God gives us, these ideas that we have. He gives us the creativity. He gives us the power to create wealth. And so we have these ideas for things that we want to build, these businesses that we want to build. We may have a vision for something that we see in the future for our lives. And fear will creep in there and whisper something like, "You're not good enough for that. You're not worthy. What makes you think you can do whatever it is that you are looking to do, whatever that dream is?" So I had a vision recently. And this is so I don't typically have visions. So I will have dreams. So I am someone who will have very vivid dreams. Um, and when I wake from those dreams, sometimes God will give me an interpretation for that dream. Other times I'll have no idea why I had that dream. But there are times that I'll have dreams that will either confirm something or warn me about something. I've actually had dreams about people. This is kind of like unrelated to business, but I've actually had dreams about people before they've gotten married. I've had dreams of warnings with people who, like years ago, there was a friend of mine that I had some concerns about her marriage. And unfortunately, I didn't actually know this in real life, but I had a dream that she was being abused and reached out to her. And she confirmed that this was actually happening. Um, so, I will dream things that actually come into fruition. I dreamt about friends of mine who were going to get married, and that they were going to get engaged. And they actually did get engaged almost like, I think it was like within 24 hours of the time that I had that dream. I've had dreams about pregnancy. And sometimes dreams about pregnancy might have something to do with new beginnings because babies often will, dreaming about babies will often signify something new that's starting. But I've had dreams about different people. Um, I even dreamt about I saw my son in a dream when I was pregnant with him. When he came out, he looked like he did in my dream. And so it's really kind of interesting how dreams can work. And I think that sometimes God will show us things in dreams. But a few months ago, I actually had a vision, which has never happened before. So I was awake. Um, and I literally had a glimpse of myself on a stage singing first and then speaking. And and so it was interesting, like it was almost like uh so imagine like a telescope, and imagine like looking through the telescope, and the telescope is like, zooming you in to see what it is, and then it zooms back out. So it was sort of like that. It was like I was zooming in, I saw myself, and I zoomed back out, and it was over. And I was like, wow, like that was really like that has never happened to me. But it scared me because it was like me up there on the stage alone, and there was an audience of people, right? And so, I've had people say things to me about being on larger stages and what have you. And while I've been on stages to do trainings, to conduct trainings, and I've been, in front of like, hundreds of people conducting different trainings, speaking around this subject of purpose and, building a business or overcoming fears or whatever is something that is newer to me. I've done it in this type of a platform, a virtual platform, which is a little bit different than standing on a live stage. And I usually am not combining my music with any of my speaking. So that was kind of an interesting vision. But the inner critic within is like, who do you think you are? Who do you like? How do you think you're going to be up there in front of a big old audience? Blah, 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 blah. Just negative, just, yeah, just the negative stuff that goes on sometimes in our brain that ultimately really wants to stop us from moving forward with something that God may be calling us to do. And He may be calling us to do on a regular basis. Sometimes that inner critic may say things like, you don't have enough money to start a business. Who do you think you are? You can't even afford whatever you can't afford, right? And that inner critic will cause you to believe exactly what's being said. It's like, you know, um the truth is fear, and remember, I'm personifying fear. And thank you for all of you that are joining me today on Dr. Tanya Live, where we're talking about whose voice is that, silencing the inner critic. Fear doesn't want you to start a business. In fact, fear won't allow you to start a business if you allow the noise that fear makes in your ear to continue to derail you or to distract you or to discourage you or to depress you. Um, because that's really the job of fear. That part of the job, not the part of the job that fear has to keep you safe. But when you're hearing those whispers in your ears, that's not about keeping you safe. That's about keeping you back, holding you back, and keeping you bound, and keeping you from being free to move forward and take steps towards building the business that you're supposed to be building and doing what it is that God has called you to, the assignment that He's called you to in this season of your life, because you may have an assignment. That assignment may shift and change, depending on what's going on, but it's important for you to keep focused on the assignment. And so now then how do we balance that? Like, because a lot of times we'll hear these whispers and we'll believe it. We'll hear we're not good enough and we'll believe it. We will hear that we don't have enough time because we've got, kids that we're raising, or we've got, careers that we're trying to establish, or we've got other responsibilities in our communities, in our churches. And so fear will also say, you're too busy. You can't do this thing that you are being called to do. You can't build this new business. You don't have the time to do that. But I said this the other day, and I'll say it again. What's important gets done. So now, if you know that God has called you to do something like build a new business and get a business off the ground, first of all, God knows what good your business is going to do for others. So we don't just build businesses just to make money. We build businesses to solve problems. We build businesses to make a difference. So when I started my very first business that I named after my grandfather, it really was to spread the arts, in educational spaces. That was like the point of that business, because it was also during a time where we were hearing more about the removing arts from the school. And of course, as time has gone by, that's happened more and more. And so that original business was to bring the arts into school spaces where it didn't exist. I didn't have the business wherewithal at the time to be able to like make that happen at scale, because I just didn't know enough about business. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm doing Dr. Tonya Live, because I know that some of you may also not know a lot about business. That may be the thing that's being whispered in your ear. You don't know that much about business. You can't start a business. You don't know anything about business. You didn't go to school for business. You didn't learn about business. Like, what makes you think you can have a business, own a business, grow a business, sustain a business, and you don't know a thing about it? That's what fear will whisper in your ear. And I didn't know that back then. I didn't know how to start a business and how to do it. I just tried it. I just went out, I took a leap of faith, which is a way that you can combat the critic in your ear, that inner critic. Take a leap of faith and just do it sometimes. But it doesn't mean that you do it and not try to get the support that you need. So there are people like me who have walked the path of not knowing what to do. And now I do know what to do. I learned a lot. So we're talking, that was 30 years ago. So I've learned a lot about business. I have studied business, not formally in school. I mean, I've got a doctorate, but it's not in business, it's in leadership. But I have done a lot of business reading, and I've been in courses related to business. I've been a part of chambers of commerce. I connect with different business organizations and groups so that can stay relevant and continue to understand and grow as an entrepreneur. Because how many of you know that even when you have made six figures, seven figures, eight figures, nine figures in business, you can still grow. You can still learn. There are ways that you can still maximize. There are people who get to the point in their business that have they've earned tens of millions, even billions of dollars, but they don't know how to scale it from where they are in the millions and billions to the next level. And so there are ways to scale. So we are always learning. So that critic that says you don't know enough, slap that critic away. That critic has no power. There's so much information and so much support, so much help that's out there, that you can combat that critic by saying, I can learn this. I can learn how to do this. It doesn't mean you learn it overnight, but people like me are here to support you as you're learning so that you can actually like do it and do it, effectively and efficiently, and actually get a business off the ground. I run programs during the year that support women leaders who are looking to build their businesses. So that inner critic that says you can't do it, you don't know how, you don't have enough money, shut that critic up. That critic has no idea that there is a way for you to be able to do it. With God, all things are possible anyway. I mean, like, there's nothing you can't do. You can do all things through Christ who gives you the strength. And he absolutely will give you the strength, especially if he gave you the vision for it. If he gave you the vision for it, he means for you to be able to successfully run, operate, and succeed in the business idea that he's given you. Or maybe you've got multiple ideas. I remember being told some years ago when I first started the company that I run now with Dr. Erica, I remember being told, you've got to narrow, you can't do all these things, right? And I don't remember who told that to me. But that was an outer critic, not an inner critic. Sometimes the outer critic will feed the inner critic. That outside person who has opinions about you will feed the insecurities that you have inside. Those insecurities like I'm not good enough. The insecurities that I don't know if what I if the idea that I have is going to work. I don't know if I can raise enough funds to be able to launch this business. I don't know if I have enough time or if I have enough expertise to be able to launch this business. That inner critic will really try to keep you off track and stop you from doing what it is the assignment that God has given you. And why does that happen? Why does the inner critic do that? Because the inner critic is not your friend. Okay. The inner critic is the enemy. It is the enemy that wants to derail you and keep you from moving forward because the enemy knows that if you are successful in doing what God has created you to do, the enemy knows that somebody's going to be helped because of you starting your business. The enemy doesn't want people to be helped. The enemy is going to know that somebody's going to have their needs met because of your business. The enemy doesn't want people's needs to be met. The enemy knows that somebody is going to be elevated in some kind of way as a result of your business. The enemy doesn't want people to be elevated. The enemy is going to is knows that there's somebody that's going to have what they need because of your business. But the enemy doesn't want people to have what they need because of your business. The enemy does not want you to be successful. That's why the whispers get really loud in our ears, and that those whispers derail us. And the whispers that say we can't are the things that cause us to shut down, that causes us to not move forward, to not take steps of faith, to not do the things that we know we're supposed to do to build and get these businesses off the ground. And even the enemy will be like, oh, the enemy of fear will be like, you can't. I remember when I was a child, my grandparents were amazing. I loved my grandparents. They were the absolute best grandparents in the world. Okay. And when we got to spend time with them, it was nothing but love all the time. Not that they didn't like, discipline us or correct us if we needed it, but it was nothing but love. They wanted the best for us and we knew it. We felt their love all the time. But one thing that was certain, my grandfather understood something. He understood the power of the words that come out of our mouth. So you might have an inner critic telling you you can't, but as soon as it comes out of your mouth, you have validated and affirmed that negativity and that fear and that critic. My grandfather, if as grandkids, any of us, this is me or my cousins, if any of or my siblings, if any of us said, I can't do this. I can't. He would shut us down so fast. He would tell us, you cannot say I can't. Like, like he's like, don't say I can't, because the minute you say I can't, you won't. I can't sends a message to your brain that basically says, nope, you can't do this. And so since you can't do this, I'm going to give you all the reasons why you can't. Your brain goes to work to make that a reality, to make your I can't a reality. And is that what you want? Is that really what you want? Do you want to not be able to move forward in building the business? Getting it off the ground, you've got to shut that down. And you've got to shut down not just the inner critic, but you've got to shut down what comes out of your mouth. Because what comes out of your mouth could be the life or the death of your business. If you believe if you speak something that is negative, your brain goes to work to make that the truth, to make that the reality. The same thing happens that if you, on the opposite side of things, if you say, how can I build this business? How can I grow this business? How can I enlarge this business? How can I make more of an impact in my business? If you ask the question, how, it sends a message to your brain that causes your brain to then go to work to find the answer to the question how. So you're not stuck on not being able to move forward. It's like you've got to think and speak in a way that produces the kind of results that you're looking to have. And while we're not talking as much about like what today's conversation is not as much about what comes out of your mouth, that is a part of it because we hear things in our spirit, if you will, in our inner ear. The fear will speak so loud that we start saying it ourselves. We start saying, I'm not good enough to do this. I'm too broke to do this. I don't have enough expertise to do this. And we say that enough times that we start to believe it because our brain goes to work to make sure that we're not good enough, to make sure that we're too broke, to make sure that we don't have enough expertise. It will convince us that we aren't able to do what it is that is a dream of ours. is something that has been on our hearts for so long. We can sit on this because of the inner critic. So, how do we shut it down? It's easier said than done. Like, how do we shut down the inner critic that wants to keep us from moving forward in the things that God has for us? So, this is how we shut it down. Name it. Name it. Like yesterday, we talked about naming it out loud. If you can name, this has been trying to shut me down, and then combat it, like replace the negative, fearful thoughts with replace it with something that is positive. Replace it with something that is affirming, something that will move you forward. Replace it with God's word. Like that's easy, if you know God's word. But even if you don't, replace it with things that are going to be the opposite of what fear is trying to tell you. So, for example, the I'm not good enough, imposter syndrome, I'm unworthy, that whole thing, I'm not smart enough, that type of inner critic that's constantly telling you you're not good enough, you can replace that with language that says, I am good enough. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am a masterpiece. I am intelligent. I am worthy. Like you can begin to use God's word to describe you. Like, what does God say about you? Like, who has He made you to be? I have the gifts to be able to make things happen. I have the gifts to be able to change the world. I have the gifts to be able to influence people to make good choices in their lives. I have the gift to heal. I have the gift to lift others up. Whatever your gifts are, you can begin to rehearse out loud what those gifts are that God has given you. In turn, it begins to shut down that negative inner critic that wants to tell you you're not worthy, and you're not worth it, and you're not good enough, and you're not whatever it's saying you're not, because you are all of those things and then some. So, part of our job when we hear these negative things in our ears telling us that we can't do something and we're not worthy to do something, or we don't have enough of something, we shut it down with what we do have. And sometimes we've got to rehearse it enough until we begin to believe it, because what comes up out of our mouth sends a message to our brain. It's just like if you walk around all day frowning, your brain will just think you're not in a good mood. But if the soon as you start smiling, when you start to smile, it actually sends a message to your brain. This is science. You can actually look this up. When you're smiling, it can send a message to your brain that things are going well, that things are good, right? It can actually offset. Um, I for years I would occasionally, off and on, have heart palpitations, and I know a lot of times it might have been linked to stress. And that doesn't happen often anymore, but it would happen at times in my younger years, and it sometimes would happen in the middle of the night. And so a lot of times we are awakened in the middle of the night, and fear can grip us in the middle of the night with these crazy thoughts about you're not well, and something's wrong, and this is bad, this bad thing is going to happen. And when that happens, we can panic, right? And so these stress hormones start just shooting out wherever. And for me, sometimes it would cause me to have heart palpitations. But one of the ways that I learned to combat those heart palpitations and to calm myself down is to actually smile. So I would smile, and it would send a message to my brain. I would smile, and then I would start rehearsing something, either a scripture that I know or something positive. Sometimes it may be a song that uplifts my spirit. And when I do that, I calm down. So our brains are so powerful. The thoughts that we say, the words that come out of our mouth are so, so powerful. My grandmother used to say, this is the same grandmother that I adored. I actually only had one set of grandparents that were living. By the time I was born, my other set of grandparents had already passed away. So I never knew them. But my grandmother, that was my girl. I called her Granny Baby. My Granny Baby used to say to me, words are things. Words are things. Be careful what you say. She understood. And I don't know that she understood the science behind it, but she understood it. She understood that what came out of our mouths could be a problem for what comes later in our lives. So it is really important that you pay attention to what are you saying about yourself? What are you saying about this business that you're trying to build? What are you saying about the success that you're going to have? Are you rehearsing the right things? That's something you've got to check yourself on. You have to understand that you're also not alone. So while I'm somebody who's here to support women leaders who are looking to build their businesses and get their businesses off the ground and to move forward in their businesses, you're also not alone in this world, because there is a God who is always with us to strengthen us, to help us, to uplift us, to give us what we need to be able to walk in faith and do what He has assigned for us to do. Your business is going to help somebody else. You just have to get it off the ground. You just have to move forward and build it. But you're not by yourself in the process. So now I've said a whole lot today. I feel like I was on a roll, but I realized I'm looking at the time and I'm like, we are already like at time. And while I could keep talking, because I think I actually really like doing this 90-day thing that I was so afraid to do. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying having these conversations. I know it's one sided, but at some point, you're going to talk back to me. You're going to give me ideas. In fact, that's what I want you to do for tomorrow. I want you to tell me what the dreams are that you have. What are the dreams that you want to move? I want you to say them out loud. And I want to talk to you about how you can move forward with the dreams that you have. But if you don't talk to me, if you don't tell me, then I won't be able to respond to you. But I would love to be able to hear what your dreams are. I'm hoping that today you were able to get something from this conversation. Because at this point, I'm at the end of my time, and I'm gonna have to wrap it up. But I want to thank you for spending your lunchtime with me today. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to spend your time. I don't take that lightly. It really means a lot to me that you were here. So, if today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. If you are on any of my other social platforms, you can actually see a ticker tape on the bottom that says how you can reach me. You can go onto my website, tonyabreland.com. That's TONYABRELAND. Or you can email me, Tonya@TonyaBreland.com. You can also shoot me a message, a DM, or any kind of message. I read all of my messages. I read my emails. You can visit me on my website, or you can reach out to me. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know what you are trying to do. And if you haven't already followed me, follow me on my social media. On Instagram, I am Dr. Tonya. I'm also on TikTok. I just started that. So I'm not a TikTok connoisseur. So at some point I'll get that going. But subscribe if you're on YouTube, which is also a channel that I haven't done anything with yet. So this is brand new as well for me. And follow me on any of my social media, LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. And thank you for being here today. Enjoy the rest of your day. I look forward. I'm gonna come tomorrow. I know technically it's like the legal holiday for a lot of jobs, but I'm gonna be on here tomorrow at noon. Thank you for joining me. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless you. I have to stop it. Here we go.